When did you know surfing was for you? When did I saw your doc and everything, but like, was there a clear moment? And I've done all the research where
Yeah, I mean,
you quit high
I
school.
think it was just, I think it was just like, it was an unspoken thing that's what I was doing, just because it was where I was, it was who I was around. It was like, you're at the park and whatever they're doing there, that's what you're doing. So all the men I was around, the communities I was in, I mean, definitely young. I didn't know what route I was going to take. I've been told stories, obnoxious stories about, I would tell guys, I'm going to be the best and all this stuff. And they'd be like, oh, shut up. It's like, cause you're a little kid and you're puffy chest, but young, young. I knew I was going to do something in the surfing. I just didn't know what it was. But again, you're around all these people, whether your stepdad's, a well-known surfer, and then you live in a place that at the time when I was, young, there was all the best surfers in the world walked through our yard to surf Pipeline, which was the most aggressive wave in the world. You're there, you're like, there they go, they're out there surfing. They come in, that guy's head got smashed on the reef. That guy, it's like you're in that. So it was almost like, well, that is the only thing I'm going to do. But I had that in my head to, I intuitively sensed something I was going to do. I was hoping monumental. I didn't know what that looked like, and still don't to this day. I mean, I think it's still an ongoing pursuit, but it's a little bit out of your hands kind of thing. You can relate to that, I think, too. It's a little bit out of your hands.
It is. And it's also something to do with parents or who's raising you. That like the fact, like I had friends. I played football. My brother was a football player. I was on the fucking practice field when I was 3 years old. My dad was the coach, running around in diapers doing the drills and shit. You know what I mean? And once I got there, the parents, like my parents, didn't fear me getting hurt or they didn't care. That's what they liked. I had a lot of friends. They couldn't play football or they couldn't do things because their parents were so worried about, something's going to happen to them. So I think that helped springboard me. And it clearly, like, was there ever a time your mom was like worried? Like
always worried.
Always?
Always worried, but always promoting that you can do anything. You can be anything and do anything, but worried because, that's what moms do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what but are they worrying about you and then not letting you do it? Those are two different things.
Yeah.
You can worry and still promote freedom. And so her whole thing was freedom, like being free and choosing and being able to do what you wanted to. That was the thing that was the real, but be a good person, all these, her things were more important than that. Surfing, she could have cared less. She was just probably saddened that I didn't go to college and stuff. That was for her, I think, a disappointment. And then, her concern about my surfing was nothing. It's like, what kind of person, what kind of man are you? What are your values? What are your, like, all those things? Be a good person, honesty, just the important stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But her, yeah, go, I mean, I'll tell you a story about my mom just to kind of give you something to understand her mindset. Was that when I was 10 years old, she had an opportunity to take me on a trip because she felt that traveling was very important because of what you learn. So we went, and her friend invited her on a trip. We drove from Paris, France to Bombay, India. And so we drove through the Khyber Pass, Istanbul, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. I had my 11th birthday in Afghanistan, and then we finished in Bombay. I mean, you're coming from Hawaii. Like, you're coming from
island.
So I mean, I got coconut trees and papayas and like you're like waterfalls, and then you go and you just, the impact that had on me as a person was powerful and probably influences me to this day. But so that's the kind of woman that she was like, hey, I'll I think this is really important. And she used to read me a bunch of all the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the whole thing front to back when I was really young. Read me Dune and Jonathan Livingston Seale, just all these really imagination building material, and so I think that you know,
What
that
a fucking cool
influence.
trip.
Yeah.
Like, and that does, like, I didn't travel. You know, my dad would always say, we're going across the pond to Fremont. That was the bay. You know, from Redwood City to Fremont. We didn't have those kind of funds. But, like, when I started traveling, you pick up so much perspective on how other people live, on what it's like in different places. And that's such a, that had to be 6 weeks from Paris to Bombay. That's like a lifetime. That's a trip of a lifetime. Driving it too.
Well, it's closed now. You can't even go now.
Yeah.
Now, ever since the, what is it, Iran Contra, or one of those big things that you can't drive. We drove through the old Silk Trail and Khyber Pass, but I mean, like, things that we learned was like, there was a kid I met. We slept in Afghanistan on the border because they closed the border. It was just a metal pipe across the road, and you could drove around it, but you didn't. So we stayed there, and this one kid had a translator, and the kid was. We were trying to explain that it was my birthday, and he was like, "Oh, what's that?" And then they're like, "Oh, that's the day you're born." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, he's moons old." So like he was 120 moons old, which means he was 10. And then there's like, okay, there's a guy with a boomerang walking in the middle of nowhere, like you're hundreds of miles from nowhere, and he's only got one hand, and well, he got caught stealing, and so they cut his eating hand off, and now he only has his wiping hand, so no one lets him eat communally. I mean, just like all those kind of, go to Bombay and all the kids starving. And so then you get home and you're like, food, yeah, it's awesome. Finish every food, appreciate the abundance and stuff. So all those things definitely had an influence on my, and that, okay, hey, you get to do this thing. It's surfing. Like, you have an ocean and you can surf. Like, this is something that not everybody gets to do.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody gets to do this amazing thing. And so I think and I always had it. I always had it with the ocean, but that's the Grand Master. The ocean's like the Grand Master. And so you get to learn from the Grand Master. And so but that is a luxury. That's not like, just not everybody even knows what the ocean is. You're in the middle of somewhere and they're like, an ocean. They're like, what even is that? They see water in a flood, like.
Isn't it crazy? We know more about space than we do the ocean.
Oh yeah.
That's gnarly, isn't it?
It's just ironic.
Yeah.
Kind of there's some irony in it. Like, we know the stuff about out there, but we don't know stuff about in here.
Yeah.
Like,
can you explain? Because like you're a waterman. You paddled across the English Channel or something. You did that. You surf. You windsurf. Yeah. Fucking.
But I paddled a bunch. I paddled a lot. Too much, probably.
But
probably too much.
What's that like your relationship with the ocean? That's like real. What can you explain that? Like how you feel?
Well, you love it. It's a little bit like my relationship with Gabby. You fear it a little bit. You love it, you fear it. There's all those emotions. But if I think about my relationship with the ocean, everything I have is from that.
Yeah.
Everything that I've ever, all my, like, Gabby's, everything is from, like, that's all been from the ocean. And my biggest, other than my children and my relationship, which is in its own category, my biggest, achievements from the outside looking in, athletic achievements or physical achievements, have been in the ocean. So my greatest kind of successes, my greatest failures, my biggest injuries, my, lost at seas, my trauma and suffering and injury, pain, and all that are from there too. So I have, and you can relate to that.
Mine's the gridiron. Mine's the football field. It's the exact same thing.
Exactly.
I'm sitting here talking to you because of football.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking all the great things, all the shitty things. And when I'm your age, I probably won't be able to walk, but that's from football too. You know what I mean? That's football's my ocean.
You're gonna be able to walk. You're gonna be able to technology.
Technology.